Hello, Chargers. In this video today, we're going to cover the concept of communication from Chapter 3. Chapter 3 is called Communication, Conflict, and Conflict Resolution. So the book does a really good job about talking about why effective communication is so important. And so what I want to do with this video is take that conversation a step further. A few years ago, I was at a conference and I came across this book called 35 Dumb Things Well-Intended People Say. And it truly is just that. It's a book that takes these 35 phrases that people will say with really good meaning or good intent behind it. But how it comes across isn't always how the sender of the message was hoping it would be received. So, and I'm sure we've all had that experience where we send an email, a text, we're talking with somebody and something comes out, we say something, and the person who's listening or the person we're speaking to hears the same words that you're speaking, but the meaning is completely different. I know, and I've done that too. Like I remember one time I got an email from a person, and it just happened to be the frame of mind that I was in. As I read that email, I thought, oh my gosh, how could they say that? I can't believe that just came out of there, and I'm going to reply and blah, blah. You know, I'm sitting at my computer and I'm typing a reply back, and I get done and I read through it and I'm like, you know what? I should probably step back. So I got up, did something else, whatever else that something was. I don't remember. I might have even gone to class, right? And so, so what's funny for me is when I go to class, like no matter what has happened leading up to that, I walk into that classroom and boom, I'm ready to go. Like my mood can change and I can do a complete 180. So I go to class, I teach, I come back and I sit at my desk and I reread that email. I'm like, whoa. I am so glad I did not send that out because my tone was wrong. And I reread the email that the person had sent and I went, wow, I really mistook that. And truly it was because of the frame of mind that I was in when I read the original email. So we've all had those types of experiences. I know we have, and maybe it's a text or it's a Snapchat or whatever it is, whatever media you use to communicate with people. So that's why I want to take the time for this video to talk about some of these concepts. So in her book, Morna says there are 10 core concepts to communication, things that we really need to understand to have good, strong, effective communication with another person. And the first four we're going to go over a little bit more in depth, but I want to read through to you the whole list of all 10 concepts. The first one is intent versus impact. Kind of what I've already been alluding to a little bit. The second one is pile-on principle, and you'll totally get it when we talk a little bit more about it. Number 3 is explain-aways. 4 is in-group, out-group language. 5 is advantaged and disadvantaged group identities. 6 is privilege. 7, being consistent is not always fair. And I think about my kids, like, when they're learning to, I have my youngest one right now is in driver's ed. And I remember back to when I was teaching my other kids to drive. So my daughter is the oldest, and her younger brothers have been driving on the farm forever. Like appropriately, blah, blah, blah. But they've been driving for a long time. And so what was fair with her in giving her freedoms and responsibilities is different from the boys in terms of driving. But then in terms of other things, what's fair for them and fair for her are different. So when we're attempting to parent, we want to be consistent in that these are our rules, but how we go about teaching those rules or how we go about allowing certain behaviors, still as long as they fall under these rules, it's different. So very fair and consistent. And how do you feel about that? Being allies. Raising the bar, and I think this is a really fantastic thing, and maybe I should add this to what we should talk about, but when we are in a situation where it's hot and it's heated, BAR stands for breathe, acknowledge, and respond. So rather than react and attack and then breathe. We want to breathe first, then acknowledge what that person has said, and then respond to it. And then finally, bystander behavior. So to go back to the first one, intent versus impact. And what this really is, again, with a lot of, so the first part of the book goes through these 10 principles, and it talks about why each of them is significant. It gives examples. And then the next part of the book takes those 35 statements and it walks you through what was the intent, what was the impact of that statement, and how can we do better? Like, how could we say it instead and really get our intent across without the impact that can occur because of it? And so intent versus impact. And one of the statements that that we hear people use and are explained in the book is, oh, but some of my best friends are Black, Hispanic, Muslim, insert minority group title here. By saying that, the intent is to say, I understand because I have friends who have that same type of experience. But the impact is, as a white person, as a Christian, as male, as female, I can't understand because I haven't had those same experiences. I won't have those same experiences. I can empathize. I can't fully understand. I can do my best to learn, but I can't fully understand. And then the pylon principle. I love explaining this, and there's a video actually that's attached in the folder as well that gives you a really great example of pylon principle. But think about this: you wake up in the morning, you get up out of bed, you stub your toe on the corner of the bed frame, right? Like, oh man, and it really smarts, right? It hurts and it's painful. You're like, all right, fine, whatever. And then you go to you get in your car, you go to school, you open the door to the building, and you hit your toe with that door. You're not paying attention. You open the door and oh, son of a gun, I just hit my toe again. I go to my desk, I put my stuff down, I get ready for class, I go to class, and as students are working in groups and they're doing things, somebody steps on my toe. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious right now? Did you really have to step on my toe? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. And in any other circumstance, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But because that was the third time that toe had been injured just that day, it hurt. But that person didn't know it. So that's the pylon principle, right? So when something happens repeatedly over and over and over again, and while it might have happened from this person and from this person and from this person, individually, and they don't know what had happened prior, but as that individual, you experience all of that, and it just builds and builds and builds and builds until you blow, right? That person who makes this innocuous comment, who steps on your toe, doesn't realize that you've been dealing with that all day or all week or all month or a lifetime. So that's the pylon principle. In the folder, there is a video on microaggressions about mosquitoes. Watch that. You will totally get what pylon principle is all about. The third one is explainaways. And the example that the book uses is that, if I'll come home from work at night, and my husband will get home, and and I just want to vent, like I just want to talk. Here's what happened to me today. You would not believe. And truly, I just want to go, bleh. We call it emotional regurgitation. I just want to vent to my husband. But my husband is a fixer, and he wants to try to explain why that happened or to give me a solution to how to fix that problem. So in the book, the author uses a car dealership. So she goes to this car dealership. She's looking to buy a new car. She walks into the first dealer, and she's walking through the lot. She's waiting for somebody to come out. She wants assistance, so she's waiting for somebody to come out, and nobody does. She looks in. She can see that the showroom is full of salesmen who doesn't look like they're very busy doing anything, but nobody comes out. So she gets in her car and she leaves. She goes to the next car dealership. Again, she gets out, she walks around, she's waiting. She's not as patient this time. And again, she sees a salesman standing by the door, and yet he fails to walk out. So she leaves. She's like, fine, they obviously don't want my business. So the third dealership she goes to, she gets out of her car, she starts walking around, and she's like, if they don't come out, I'm leaving. Salesman comes out. How can I help you? What can I do for you? What are you looking for? How can we get you into the best fit for you? What's your best fun ride that you're gonna really want to buy? And she has a really great experience, and she buys her car from that dealership, from that salesperson. So what happened there? She's like, I'm a woman, and therefore men assume I don't know anything about cars. I knew exactly what I was looking for. I knew exactly what it needed to be. And I can give you the specs because I've done my research, but nobody wanted to give me the time of day. And I can completely relate to that as a woman. So I had the same experience at an auto body shop. I walked in, I'm like, this is what's going on. I know what's wrong with my car. Can you do this, this, and this? Oh, let us take a look at it. We'll tell you what's wrong with your car. And in the end, it ended up, I was absolutely correct. We spent, because I don't know, again, I don't know, I'm explaining away. Do they not want to believe me because I'm a woman and I don't know anything about cars? But yet, you know what? I grew up wrenching on cars, so whatever. But it took a lot more time to diagnose what was wrong with my car because they just didn't listen to me in the first place. And lastly, the last concept that I want to talk to you about is the idea of in-group and out-group language. So many of you will understand this. It's a really easy concept. And I like to use siblings as a great way to explain this. So I have a younger brother. He's 3.5 years younger than me. And we didn't get along great outside of home. So, right, like my brother, when he was younger, he's a jerk and I hate my brother. Those comments that siblings make to each other. But if we were out in public and anybody threatened my brother or my sister, they had me to deal with. I can say that about my brother. He's a jerk. He's a smart mouth. He's going to get himself in trouble one of these days. But if anybody else said something about my brother, I was there to defend him 500% because he's my brother. So that's the idea of in-group, out-group language. And that's why when you see certain groups, certain minority groups, people of color, when they use a word, and as white people, well, why do they get to use that word but I can't? That's in-group, out-group language. There's a reason why you can't use that word, because typically, I don't even care what word it is, but the reality of it is, historically, that word has been used to be derogatory, to put somebody down, to put them in their place. And so for a person who is in a majority position, to use that word with that historical context is wrong. And so what you see a lot of minority groups doing is taking those words that have historically been meant to be derogatory and dismissive and attempting to own that word. So if I use it within my group, I'm taking ownership of that word, and therefore that word can no longer harm me. But if I get it, because I have friends who are, it's still not okay for me to use that word because that's not my lived experience. So I hope that makes sense. I hope those concepts of communication, I hope that explanation was meaningful to you, that you understand why some of these concepts are as important as they are, because they truly are. So I strongly would encourage you to check the book out. Like I said, you have a digital copy there. And then I also included a link, a document that has just this 35 statements just listed out. But in the book, it goes through, and like I said, it tells you what the intent of that statement is, what the impact can be, and then what you can do or say instead, so that you can avoid that whole misunderstanding and mishap. All right, I hope that was helpful, and we'll see you in the next video.